Hi, sophomores. You getting used to this? I don't know if you are. I'm getting used to recording. That's for sure. If by any chance you're not crazy about this anymore, please do let me know because this is. I mean, I don't mind it, but at the same time, I do like changing things up. So, and I think I will at some point. But there is a lot of value in doing these videos because you can always come back to them later. And if a student misses a class, they can always click on it and go through it as they want to. But to begin, go ahead and take out a sheet of paper for free response journal number 3. So, real quick, some observations about the first couple. The good ones, the really good ones, and I don't want to call out specific students because, number one, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but there's some good ones. And what do the good FRJs do? They're original and creative in nature. I'm sorry, that's not supposed to be in, that's supposed to be and. What do I mean by that? People are looking at, for instance, with Top Man, there was some mountains, some interesting mountains. With good advice, there were some rubies, there was some pakoras, just different things that people were thinking of as they. And you might be asking, why do I have to do that? Well, the reason I'm asking you to do that is because I'm taking you outside of normal note taking so that I can see the story the way you're seeing the story, and I want you to be able to visualize it. And if you just write notes, it's just notes. And I don't want it to be just notes. And besides, when you read a story, and if you're a visual person, it'll come to you much better. And if you're auditory, this hopefully will help because this video should help. But there's also bullet number 2. They cover all the elements of fiction. There's correct MLA info, and it's actually fun to read. And there are multiple pages usually. Those of you who are getting like 3s and 2s, not so much the 4s. The 4s are pretty much exactly good, except for one small mistake, which is probably MLA. But those of you that could probably get better than a 3, obviously, they're just too simple. You're just writing straight notes down, like, okay, this is the plot. Da 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 da. And you're not putting any, you're not adding any anything to show you're thinking, like a symbol or like a stick figure or like a flag or I don't know. A flag is a symbol. And then lastly, there's no MLA formatting as well. So if you're curious, I am putting some notes into what what your free response journals are looking like. But okay, this story, the one we're going to read today, or partly today, we'll read it throughout the week, kind of deals with something more along a lot different than Top Man and Good Advice is Rarer Than Rubies. This one will be the simplest, in my opinion. And yes, I have read all these short stories in multiple times and taught them in multiple classes. The difference being, though, this one you're going to find out is going to be one where I want you to think back when you were not necessarily insulted, but kind of when you felt like you were slighted by someone or something. Something happened to you, and you're like, "Whoa, that I feel offended." But I'm going to take great pains to not show that I'm offended by what this person did. Now, you're probably most likely going to think it was from an adult. It might have been a teacher, might have been a coach, might have been somebody that's a little older. But I'm thinking it's most likely going to be from your age group, and that might be me generalizing too much. But people that kind of put other people down or insult other people are people that feel like they have the upper hand, or feel like a situation presents themselves where they can be rude or mean, and that sucks, right? It never feels good. Well, it's even worse if certain situations are already counted against you and you never even did anything wrong in the first place. That's kind of what this story is going to be about, right? So, okay, so this story is called One Friday Morning. Okay, it's written by Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes is a famous Harlem Renaissance writer. The source is, we're going to choose the source from What So Proudly We Hail. It's African American literature. There's your source type, reprinted. Your publisher is Hill and Wang, a book publisher, and in 1952. Okay, so I will share these slides with you later, but this is the story here, and I'll begin it with you again, as you guys have wanted this to happen this way. This is a PDF, so you can find this on your own, but I will post it on Canvas. The source comes from it's called "What So Proudly We Hail," and I think it's a independent source, maybe some sort of tied to a library or a Library of Congress. The first, okay, and then this is just sort of like a little liner note: the American Soul and Story Speech and Song. But this is the title, and there's your author. And this first paragraph, I don't really want you to read right now. I mean, you can read it, but it really won't help until you're done. Okay, and then I will address some of these questions after we're done reading the story. So don't worry about all this italic paragraph right here. It starts right here. The story starts with the thrilling. So let's begin here, okay? You guys have your papers ready? Please write down, if you haven't, one Friday morning for your response journal, okay? And then I'll slowly, periodically, again, like I always do, ask you to go ahead and pause when you need to, take some notes down, find some things you can look for on the elements of fiction, how you can visualize it, okay? The thrilling news did not come directly to Nancy Lee, but it came in little indirections that finally added themselves up to one tremendous fact. She had won the prize. But being a calm and quiet young lady, she did not say anything, although the whole high school buzzed with rumors, guesses, reportedly authentic announcements on the part of students who had no right to be making announcements at all. Since no student really knew yet who had won this year's art scholarship. But Nancy Lee's drawing was so good, her lines so sure, her colors so bright and harmonious that certainly no other student in the senior art class at George Washington High was thought to have very much of a chance. Yet you never could tell. Last year, nobody had expected Joe Williams to win the Artist Club scholarship with that funny modernistic watercolor he had done of the high level bridge. In fact, it was hard to make out there was a bridge until you looked at the picture a long time. Still, Joe Williams got the prize, was feted. Okay, if you don't know what feted is, there's a word that you can put down in your journal. By the community's art painters, club women, and society folks at a big banquet at the Park Rose Hotel, and was now an award student at the art school, the city's only art school. Okay, so far, if you don't have anything in your free response journal, prize comes to mind. Okay, you already have Nancy Lee. Looks like this is going to be about her, right? You don't have a ton of the only exposition is that um, she is rumored to be in the buzz for the award, which you could put however you want in your journal. Nancy Lee Johnson was a colored girl a few years ago out of the South, but seldom did her high school classmates think of her as colored. She was smart, pretty, and brown, and fitted in well with the life of the school. She stood high in scholarship, played a swell game of basketball, and had taken part in the senior musical in a soft, velvety voice. It never seemed to intrude or stand out, except in pleasant ways, so it was seldom even mentioned, her color. Lots and lots of direct characterization. This is all direct characterization right here. Nancy Lee sometimes forgot she was colored herself. She liked her classmates and her school. Particularly, she liked her art teacher, Miss Dietrich, the tall, red-haired woman who taught her law and order in doing things, and the beauty of working step by step until a job is done, a picture finished, a design created, or a block print carved out of nothing but an idea and a smooth square of linoleum, inked, proofs made, and finally put down on paper. Clean, sharp, beautiful, individual, unlike any other in the world, thus making the paper have a meaning nobody else could give it except Nancy Lee. That was the wonderful thing about true creation. You made something nobody else on earth could make, but you. Okay, in your journals. So this paragraph is pretty good as far as what comes from it, which is the art of creation, right? The art of just making something in general, and the difficulty with understanding how that's a craft, right? How that's a skill, making something. In this case, art, but I mean, art can be a lot of things. But she looks up to Dietrich in this paragraph, but you could also kind of put down that art requires a lot of things. And it seems like there's a lot of rules in the way Dietrich paints it out to be, right? Miss Dietrich was the kind of teacher who brought out the best in her students, but their own best, not anybody else's copied best. For anybody else's best, great though it might be, even Michelangelo's wasn't enough to please Miss Dietrich, dealing with the creative impulses of young men and women living in an American city in the Middle West and being American. This is an allusion right here. Allusion. You need to know who Michelangelo is. If you don't know who Michelangelo is, I would still write this in your journals, please. It will help you, okay? And look him up. Nancy Lee was proud of being an American with blood out of Africa a long time ago, too many generations back to count. But her parents had taught her the beauties of Africa, its strength, its song, its mighty rivers, its early smelting of iron, its building of the pyramids, and its ancient and important civilizations. And Miss Dietrich had discovered for her the sharp and humorous lines of African sculpture. Benin, Congo, Makonde. Nancy Lee's father was a mailer carrier, her mother a social worker in a city settlement house. Both parents had been to colleges in the South, and her mother had gotten a further degree in social work from a northern university. Her parents were, like most Americans, simple, ordinary people who had worked hard and steadily for their education. Now they were trying to make it easier for Nancy Lee to achieve learning than it had been for them. They would be very happy when they heard of the award to their daughter. Yet Nancy did not tell them. To surprise them would be better. Besides, there had been a promise. Okay. Casually, if you haven't paused and got some stuff yet, there's also a lot of history right here. Okay, there's a it's sort of a it's more of a flashback, not really a flashback from a character's point of view, but kind of more a background of history. Casually one day, Miss Dietrich asked Nancy Lee what color frame she thought would be best on her picture. That had been the first inkling. Blue, Nancy Lee said. Although the picture had been entered into the art contest a month ago, Nancy Lee did not hesitate in her choice of color for the possible frame, since she could still see her picture clearly in her mind's eye. For that picture waiting for the blue frame had come out of her soul, her own life, and had bloomed into miraculous being with Miss Dietrich's help. It was, she knew, the best watercolor she had painted in her 4 years as a high school art student, and she was glad she had made something Miss Dietrich liked well enough to permit her to enter in the contest before she graduated. It was not a modernistic paint picture in the sense that you had to look at it a long time to understand what it meant. It was just a simple scene in the city park on a spring day, with the trees still leaflessly lacy against the sky, the new grass fresh and green, a flag on a tall pole in the center, children playing, and an old black woman sitting on a bench with her head turned. A lot for one picture, to be sure, but it was not there in heavy and final detail like a calendar. Its charm was that everything was light and airy, happy like spring, with a lot of blue sky, paper white clouds, and air showing through. You could tell that the old black woman was looking at the flag, and that the flag was proud in the spring breeze, and that the breeze helped to make the children's dresses billow as they played. Okay, lots of really good heavy imagery right here. Okay, lots of good rising action because you're getting description of the painting itself and how it's the best she's done, and some symbolism. Miss Dietrich had taught Nancy Lee how to paint spring, people, and a breeze on was only a plain white paper piece of paper from the supply closet. But Miss Dietrich had not said make it like any other spring people breeze ever seen before. She let it remain Nancy Lee's own. That is how the old black woman happened to be there looking at the flag. For in her mind, the flag, the spring, and the woman formed a kind of triangle, holding a dream Nancy Lee wanted to express. White stars on a blue field, spring, children, ever growing life, and an old woman. Would the judges at the Artists Club like it? Okay, so we'll stop right there real quick. So there's some more that you can get from there. Let me read this page, and then we'll be done with the first 3 pages, and then we'll continue. One wet, rainy April afternoon, Miss O'Shea, the girls' vice principal, sent for Nancy Lee to stop by her office as school closed. Pupils without umbrellas or raincoats were clustered in doorways, hoping it would make it home between showers. Outside, the skies were gray. Nancy Lee's thoughts were suddenly gray too. Ooh. Okay, so that's called foreshadowing. But real quick, there's you can go back to that at the bottom of page 3. Remember the first all these stories I've been telling you guys, there's cross cultural differences. And you get it at the top of page 2. Okay, I did forget to point that out. Okay, so please make a note of that. It's a good one. Okay. And then yeah, we're at the bottom of page 3. So let's stop there for now, and I'll tell you what we'll do next.